World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Jana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be lethal to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is
now. Well, hello. Again today we are with Access Wealth Nation with Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, giving you that checkup from a neck up, opening up your mind to financial literacy on all levels, because if you know better, you'll do better. And so, of course, with Access Wealth Nation, we are broadcast through the Soul City Network and also on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. And I, Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, am so happy to spend a little time with you today. I have an exciting guest. As usual, Access Wealth Nation brings you individuals from all different walks of life that add to our financial diaspora. And so, of course, you know, we do believe in bringing financial literacy. So if you know about this book, that means you've got it. If not, then you need the How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker book by Tom Matthews and Steve Siebold. Of course, this is the foundation book. And we have for women, which I found out it's not just for women, because men are reading it and they can get the How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It. And these books are offered to you free. You just have to let us know which book you want, or do you want both of them. The only obligation you have is to read the book, okay? And then if you got something out of it, please share it with me. Of course, we also believe that at the end of the book, especially the How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker book, and if you really would like a financial strategy, or what we call the discovery call. What is a discovery call? It is a call that where you finds out where you're at and then where you'd like to be. And if you have a roadmap, there's a good chance you will succeed. But if you have no plan, then you're planning to fail. So you need a plan. And unfortunately, this industry does not avail the opportunity for you to get that kind of information free of charge. But with Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse and Access Wealth Nation, you do have that opportunity. And I'm looking forward to hearing from many, many more of you because you have reached out. And don't be frightened. Keeping a secret is like when you get to that diagnosis at the doctor and it says the C word. And instead of going back and handling it and addressing it face on and fighting it with the victory of the universe, instead we go away and it gets worse. Well, the same thing happens with your finances if you do not spend that time making sure and paying attention to where you are and what you need to do. And that's what we're here for. And so if you'd like the books, you have to send an email with your address to Anaj Enterprises Inc. That's ANAJENTERPRISESINC. I know that's a lot. At gmail.com. Now, coming up for the year 2024, I'm just putting the bug in your ear because many of you are being secret agents. And so what I'd like you to do, we're going to establish an email availability that's specifically for Ask Dr. Jana at soulcity.me. So that's coming up real soon. And it'll be available to those who would like to ask a question and not necessarily want everybody to know it's them. It's okay. Ask your questions. So tonight you can ask your questions. Feel free to join in and participate. I know many of you like to watch this after I've gone off. I'm not sure how to take that. But just to say, it's an opportunity for you to get this information, and that's what's more important. So I think I've covered everything. Oh, no, I didn't. If you would like to get a chance to see me and talk with me in person, this Saturday at 11 o'clock, Access Wealth Nation is part of Resurgence that's put together by Christian Times and Reverend Dennis Dillon. And I share the stage with an infamous woman, Shauna Heath. And we will be dealing with the wealth cure. The Wealth Cure. And that title was really written in a book by Hill Harper. You'll know Hill Harper, the actor. And he tells a story about what you need to do to get yourself financially strong. So come on out. It's going to be at Riverside Church, and it's an all-day affair. I get there at about 7 o'clock in the morning, but our panel will be on at 11. And if you're interested, you come to my Facebook page and you'll be able to see the links and sign up. Our panel, it's only $25, but it's a wealth full of knowledge and information. Investment people and business people from all walks of life. It's about 6 of us discussing the wealth cure. And also at the end, you can possibly get some extra information to help you build your business or your dreams. So please come out and join us for this event. And it starts really tomorrow. I won't be there tomorrow, but I suggest you get there and look up the Resurgence. You can look at on Soul City's page, or Matt McCoy, our producer. He also has on his page, and of course, Access Wealth Nation. So that being said, I have done my duty, and I'm looking forward to spending this time getting some information. As you saw in the promo pieces, is that we're talking about today estate planning, and we're also talking about immigration. You know, our world today has changed even more, and there's a whole issue about immigration, and I've watched this gentleman give his heart and soul in the area of immigration, and definitely with estate planning. It has been an awesome situation to watch him, and I feel so comfortable when I send my clients to him because I know they're going to be taken care of to the fullest. So that being said, there is this gentleman who is a phenomenal attorney, yes, and he has a practice in the New York City area. It is the Legros law firm, PLLC, and it has grown. I've watched him through the years. We met in 2009. It seems like we've known each other for eternity, but his specialty is just, they give him specialties, but the reality is he is the all-knowing type of attorney. And if he doesn't know, he knows how um, to find out for you. And he has received many awards over the years. Graduated again from the Suffolk University Law School in Boston. Bless him for being in Boston. I know that was not easy. And he has given basically the opportunity for even young people who are interested in the legal field to intern, and he has embraced so many organizations. I'm looking at his resume. He does work with the Eagle Academy for Young Men, which is so needed for our young men to see young men. And yes, I know he may have some years on him, but he's a young man. And he has definitely just helped to change this world in our community. And so I'll introduce Mr. Evan J. Legros. Hi,
Wow.
Evans.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome to Access Wealth Nation.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
You know, I love having you. Every time I can get a hold of you as you're running through and doing so much, because this is a busy man, but he takes time for our people. And that means a lot. I watch what he does. I sort of miss him. He moved out of the area our office I was in, but it's okay. He sometimes comes to visit me. So that's very powerful. It makes me feel good. So
I'm still
Evans,
not too far, though. I'm not too far.
no, you're not. You're walking distance. So, Evans, I want you to share with my audience a little bit about what you do, because, of course, there's lawyers of all different types, but
Sure.
I know you handle a lot of different areas, and one of the major areas is you do estate planning, you do the wills, and I have sent my clients to do a will, and this is not what would we call it, the law, I guess, fill in the blank. That's what I can say. It's the fill in the blank. Don't want to promote nobody. So let's say fill in the blank type of law. But you give an in-depth will and estate, and you don't leave any stone unturned. So that's one area. And then, I want to talk to you a little bit, if we can cover the immigration situation here especially here in New York. So I'm going to let you get the floor and share with us, because I heard you have a little bit of information for me, because I was just going to PowerPoint hit you with questions, but since you got something to share with us, I think this is so important.
First of all, I'm very happy to be here. I love working with you and Access Wealth Nation, and you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
If you give an attorney the floor, that's a little dangerous, because I can take the entire. How much time do we have? 45
We have
minutes?
an hour. Well, we have a little bit less than an hour, about 45 minutes.
You can do it. So what I'm going to
Okay.
do is, I am a real estate attorney. I first started in my practice doing immigration law many years ago, and I learned it, and I learned it very well. So I'm going to start with a small presentation on immigration. And Jana, if you can please, throughout the presentation, please ask questions.
Okay.
If there are questions from the audience, let me know. And then we're going to delve into my other area, which is, like you said, last wills and testaments. So we'll go through the slides pretty quickly. This is my law firm. It's legrolawfirm.com. You can always find me. You can email me at info@legrolawfirm.com. You can also find me now on LinkedIn, believe it or not. I'm there, social media. And that's pretty much that. But I can get started whenever you're ready.
Well, I'm ready. I want to see what you got for us.
I want to make sure I could run this thing here. Awesome. I'm just playing around with it here. Here we go. So
Okay.
you can see the screen. I have a QR code at the bottom of every page. If I'm not looking at the screen, don't worry. I am paying attention. This is
Okay.
going to be a very brief, Jana, review of immigration and nationality law.
No problem.
2022 and 2023, we saw a huge influx of people at our southern border from many different countries. People think it's typically South America or Mexico, but they're coming from African nations, European nations, Asian nations, all over the world, and they're coming through the southern border. Our current administration has they have a little thing where they'll allow people to come in, and if they're fleeing their country based on persecution, they can sort of be set up here for a while and apply for asylum and things of that sort. So people are coming here for a lot of reasons. New York State, and in particular New York City, happens to be sanctuary city, which means that these cities are taking the brunt of what's happening with the influx of people that are coming in. So I've seen it myself. But we do have a lot of senators that are here to help people, particularly into the New York area. Our mayor and the governor, they're providing housing for people, food, things of that sort, and access to legal resources for them to figure out whether or not they qualify for asylum or other things. So that's the setup. And this is a lot going on. So let me start. What is immigration? Do you know? So it pretty much allows non-citizens to legally seek, travel, or remain in the United States. So if someone is immigrating, they're coming here because they want to stay. People come in different ways. They'll come across the border, they'll come legally, or they'll come as non-immigrants, which we'll discuss a little later on, and then they can transfer to immigration, which means that they want to stay longer. Okay, so there are different tops. These are like the hot topics of immigration. There are different types of status. Like I mentioned earlier, there are different agencies that get involved, like the USCIS is the major agency that people go through in order to get naturalized, to get their green card or their status here in the United States. Once someone gets
Evans, the thing with the green card, because I never did understand this. So you come in, you have no documents.
Yep.
So then what do you have to usually produce so that you can get to that level?
Well, I'll give you two scenarios. The first scenario is you have a person that comes in under a tourist visa. They fly in. I have a cough, by the way, so I'll be drinking some water here. They'll come in on a tourist visa, and prior to that visa expiring, they may meet someone or have a family member sponsor them for a green card. So they can get their LPR status through what's called adjustment of status. That's when they're already here and they decide once they get here, I don't want to go back. I just met someone. The person may be a U.S. citizen, so they'll sponsor them for a green card and they get the green card while they're here. So if you see LPR status, that's lawful permanent resident. So that's the same thing as a green card holder. So once someone, and a lot of these are family-based immigration, or they can also be a person that gets it through their employer or through a non-immigrant visa that transfers to a green card. So typically what happens is once someone gets the green card, then years later, they can possibly qualify and be eligible for naturalization, which makes them a U.S. citizen. So it's this whole thing. And if you see on the screen, I write crimes and immigration. I also have things called the broken system. But crimes, for example, if someone has a green card and they made it here and they never applied for U.S. citizenship, they can still be deported. Yeah. So the person could have been here when they're 2 years old. And if something happened when they're 25 or 30 or 40, and that crime is something that places them in removal proceedings, they can be deported. So I tell anyone.
So you can be, is that what happens when we talk about, I forgot what they were called, the DACAs or?
Ooh, we'll discuss DACA.
Okay, never mind. Keep going.
So someone who has a green card and they never became a citizen, if they commit a certain type of crime, that makes them deportable. So I tell people the moment you are ready to apply for your citizenship, which means 3 or 5 years into your green card status, apply for naturalization. And then they can commit crimes afterwards, but they don't do that. Most people don't. But the people that do, they can get protected, because it's really sad when it could be something that's not made perhaps a violent crime. And they have children here, they have family here, and they'll be deported back to the country that they haven't been to since they were 1 year old. So it's sort of something that people may want to do. So this is a checkup from the neck up. Use that mind and become a U.S. citizen the moment a person can. I'm going to keep moving because I know I'm watching the time here. So as far as core immigration law concepts, every country has borders, every country has immigration laws and things of that sort. So you have people who come to the country and you're either temporary green card holder for 2 years, and then you have to transfer to become a permanent green card holder. There are a lot of enforcement concepts, as I mentioned before. If a person can be deported and removed if they don't become a U.S. citizen. So we mentioned that there are types of status. You can have a person as a U.S. citizen by birth in the United States. Sometimes a person acquires citizenship from a parent. So if the person is born in Malaysia or somewhere out of the country, if one or both of the parents are a U.S. citizen, they can acquire citizenship from them or derive as well. And also by naturalization. So once you get a green card, you apply. Now keep in mind that people who apply for U.S. citizenship, you can also lose your citizenship as well. Even if you're naturalized, if you think you're safe, a person can be denaturalized, which is pretty scary. Oh yeah. So that's for and this was a threat under the Trump administration when he sort of taunted that to people, saying, "Hey, even if you're naturalized, I can still do something to you." And the laws are on the books. I don't think it happens very. It's not very common, but it can happen. Let me see. You have foreign nationals. I don't like to use the word alien or illegal immigrant. I'd rather use the word foreign nationals. I'm trying to edit that out of my presentations because this is the name that alien is the word that's used in immigration court and things of that sort. So you have immigrants, you have people who are asylees who come into the country, they apply for asylum, and you have people who are non-immigrants. These are people who are who come in on temporary tourist visas, and we'll go through that in a moment. I call that what like the alphabet soup of immigration, where you have different letters.
Does that include those that come in for school and
Yes,
decide
sure
to
does.
not leave?
Oh, it's there as well. And then you have those who are undocumented, which means that people just came in, or so they're different names for people. So an immigrant or green card holder is a person who has intent to reside permanently in the United States. So when a person gets a green card, they have to be here 51% of the year. And in the time that they can't like get the green card and go back home for 11 months and come back. They have to be here 51% of the years, and they have to pay their income taxes. Part of applying for naturalization is you have to show that you paid your taxes while you were a green card holder. And also, these same people have to do selective service. So there are things that once you are a green card holder that you have to do. You can't vote, but you have to register for the draft. You know the time that
Well,
we're in
with
right
that is that if you, okay, so you file and you have a green card, therefore you should have a social security number, or is that with this thing with this TIN number?
now. That's a great question, actually. Once a person applies for green card status in the United States, one of the applications that we also file with a green card is an application to work, an application to travel. Once you get that work authorization document, that gives you a free path to apply for your Social Security card, your state driver's license, and things of that sort. So it comes with a plethora of wonderful benefits. So between the application and the actual interview, if there's even an interview for approval, you get these other things that allow you to drive, to stay here, and things of that sort. But they really want people to pay taxes. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so this is what you were asking me earlier about the student visas. As you can see, this is just a few of the non-immigrant visas that are here. So people have the mindset that immigration is people who are illegal. You have non-immigrants who are just coming here to live and work. You have athletes, musicians. You have people who are coming for concerts in Central Park in the summer. The full band is coming from wherever they're coming from, and you have models. You have people of extraordinary ability. So these are all the letters. The B is a tourist, of course. An E is a person who's doing like an investment. They're opening up a business and pouring a lot of money into the U.S. And you have your F1 students, and these students are not allowed to work. If they do work, they can work for a very limited amount of hours. And after they're done with the schooling, they could do what's called an OPT, or optical training, for a year or so. And at that point, if you notice, you have EFHOL, you can jump from visa to visa. as long as you apply for the visa prior to the expiration of that particular one. A lot of these visas, as you see on the screen, are, for example, like an H visa. That's for a company. So if your company wants to bring someone in from another country on an H-1 visa, it's called a specialty occupation, where they can only work with your company. If they want to work for another company part-time, that company would have to sponsor them for a part-time visa as well. So these are very specific to why a person is coming in. Sometimes a person will apply, a company will apply for the person or a school, and let's say a person's going to NYU, and they fly into California. So the at the airport, the officer will, why are you flying into California? Sometimes the person doesn't even have the intent to go to school. They just want to get to America. So sometimes these visas can be revoked at the airports, and the person takes
So these individuals that we're seeing right now, most of the people we're seeing in New York, is this through asylum, or what are they saying this is? Because it's just like, it's terrible.
Those people are not these. These are the people that you see on the screen are people who actually applied for the visa while they were back in their country, or if they had a non-immigrant. It's, for example, an H visa is good for 3 years, and then they have to renew every 3 years. But they can also transfer to a green card. Now, the people that we're seeing in New York City are more people like we see here, people who possibly came what's called EWI, entered without inspection, EWI. They came across the border at a non-designated port of entry and just stayed. So if ICE doesn't catch them at the border, then the person, they're here. If ICE does process them, they're doing something called catch and release, where they will catch the person, fingerprint them sometimes, take a photograph, and give them a document and say, well, where do you want to go? I'm going to go to Chicago, it's a sanctuary city. I'll go to New York. That's why these cities are getting busloads of people from the border, thousands per day, thousands. And a city can only handle so much. But a lot of these people are applying for, you see the screen here, they're applying for asylum and refugee status that allows them to stay in the United States while their case is pending. Okay.
So once their case is heard, there's a possibility for them to get naturalized or apply for it.
So what happens is it's a step-by-step process. The first step is to, for example, if you apply for asylum, the person has to file within their first year of entering the United States. Okay, so some people are being detained during that time, or they show up and they don't know they don't know where to go. But for those who are lucky enough, or those who have the knowledge, they will apply for asylum within the first year, and then they'll be interviewed. If the USCIS agrees with their reason for asylum, they will make them an asylee for 1 year. After the 1 year passes, the person can then apply for their green card. And then after 5 years, they can apply for naturalization. So it's a step-by-step process. And at any level, USCIS can yank that status from the person.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is there a preference to the type of person who gets that exception as to other, what reason why I'm asking this, and you may be able to answer now, but I'm looking on the streets, and the people who are on the street look like they're coming from some of the African diaspora. And then I'm watching folks who are going into the hotels. They don't look like that, so I'm wondering, is there a discrepancy in some ways of what's the criteria for you to be able to be accepted as, like you just said, the asylum?
Well, that's a great question. The asylum is supposed to be for people who are seeking refuge in the United States. Asylum is for people who are being mistreated in their country based on one of their characteristics. It could be political opinion, race, religion, ethnicity, and things of that sort, or even membership in a particular group. So the USCIS is supposed to look at all of these separately and individually and see if this person, sometimes they'll get what's called a credible fear interview prior to even coming into the country, or like once they get here. And they'll ask a few baseline questions to see if the person should even be let in. Some people are just bypassing this whole thing and just coming in anyway. But that's the level. And once they apply, they go to what's called one of these asylum offices in the United States, and then they will tell their story that day. It can be very in-depth. The more information the person has, the better. So sometimes you'll see people who will actually come in with actually proven documents of what happened to them back in their country. So and the stories are traumatic, I tell you, very traumatic. But a few years ago, there was a lot of people would come and say, "Well, I live in a very dangerous country," but that's not asylum. You're applying for something different. But it changes during the administration how the courts handle it. It changes for each administration based on how USCIS is given directives as to how to apply for things or whether they want to let people in. But yeah, it's a case by case analysis. But the cool thing is, if, for example, one family member, maybe a husband or wife or a spouse applies, and the spouse and the family also gets the status as well. So if the head of the household has asylum, then everyone else can come in as well if they're immediate relatives. So
That's a good thing.
it's not for everyone though, not for everyone. But that's just one. Now, if you see on my screen here too, you see DACA. DACA's been a huge thing. You have people who were born to the United States as kids when they were under 16, I think under 16 years old. Let's say they were 1, 2, 3 years old, to no fault of their own. So I think in 2012, during Barack Obama's presidency, he passed through executive action DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And this allowed, finally, you have people who were like in 11th, 12th grade, their friends are going off to college, and this kid has no social security number, has nothing. They're undocumented at that point. So luckily with DACA, it allowed them to get a work card, social security number. It allowed them to get driver licenses, and now they can at least participate in higher education. So that was something that happened, but that's been the courts are fighting these in a lot of red states. They don't want DACA to go through. It's not a pathway per se to a green card, but it's at least something. So it's been challenged by a lot of courts, whether or not it's constitutional and things of that sort. So we'll see what happens. And you also see a special immigrant juvenile there. Across the border, you're going to see a lot of kids under 21 coming in alone. So a lot of these children can apply for what's called special immigrant juvenile status, where if they can get any guardian in the United States, documented or not, and if they can show that either one or both of their parents have abandoned them or no longer in their lives, they can apply for in family court for guardianship. That guardianship will give them the pathway to apply for an I-360 special immigrant juvenile application or petition. If that's approved, then they can apply for their own green card. And they get their green card. But guess
So
what?
they're here without their parents.
They're here without their parents. And they're
So
under
where are they
21.
Staying?
Sometimes they're staying where you see them on the street, or they perhaps have family members here, distant relatives, friends of friends, church. It could be anywhere. But the thing was, once this person gets a green card, they can never petition for their parents, because it'll, so it's sort of one that's good for that person, but it may not be great for let's say that dad passed away or has abandoned the kid years ago, but they can't even file for mom. It's pretty, yeah. So like we mentioned earlier, undocumented is a person who came without inspection or an EWI, a person who entered the U.S. with legal status but now expired. So the person had a valid visa and they were here. There was to be here for 6 months. They stayed longer. There are an estimated 11.2 million undocumented persons in the United States. I think this is from 2022, perhaps, and that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
We talk about in New York, we've sustained 8 million, in New York alone, but that's not immigrants. This is all people. So across the country, there's 11.2 million. That's a lot of people.
11.2 million in the United States. And that's just what they think. And a lot of these people are in the pipeline right now, and they're looking to, be natural, to become documented. But this is the numbers that we're dealing with, and the courts are backlogged beyond belief. USCIS is backlogged beyond belief. Some people have no way to even get status, other people do. So proponents say, hey, if you legalize a lot of these people, they'll pay taxes. they'll work and they'll pay taxes. A lot of the people in this category may be employed, self-employed, or under the books, and the U.S. is not receiving any financial assistance from this through taxes. So maybe someone may want to think about that as well. Because I'm not sure if you can deport 11.2 million people. It's a lot of people. Yeah. We'll go next. And who enforces the immigration laws? As we know, the USCIS is the body or organization that everyone applies to for this, and ICE are the physical police force for the USCIS. Is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and also at the border we have CBP, which is Customs Border Protection. And if someone ends up in court, they go to the Department of Justice through the Executive Office for Immigration Relief. This is what's called a deportation hearing. Like, for example, someone applies for something and they don't get it, they may end up in front of the immigration judge, which is a last-ditch effort. So no one wants to be there.
The
Yeah.
thing I have for you is that, okay, I remember you said that if someone breaks the law, that is cause for them to be deported. But what is the breaking of the law? And definitely as a lawyer, what's the levels? Because you could break the law by jaywalking.
It's very low level. For DACA, for example, if someone's applying for DACA, even if the person go to a wedding, you have a drink of wine, you go move the car, and the police find you, or they'll stop you. That's a DUI, which a person can no longer apply for DACA. But you can get a green card that way. Usually, it's a crime involving moral turpitude or an aggravated felony, or like a crime of violence is where people are being deported. If you recall, during the President Obama years, he had what's called a priority list of people who they would deport. People say that Obama, under his administration, they deported a lot of people, but the people that were being deported were people who were convicted felons. It wasn't mom and dad who have 3 kids and live out in a nice house in Queens or something. It was people who had aggravated felons, crimes involving moral turpitude. It was like very high level things, violent crimes. Those are the people that were being rounded up and deported. A lot may be back through this new they may be back because they came across the border again. But yeah.
I had a little quick question, as I know you want to come. I might have to bring you back for the estate side because this is very.
I know.
But I have a question for you because I know I have young people listening.
Sure.
What possessed you to get in this side of the law?
This side of the law being in defense, as far as immigration defense. And I love that question. I went to an event yesterday and I didn't. When I was in law school, I wanted to do international law, and I was very interested in music, international music. And when I first started doing immigration law, I fell upon this where it was through non-immigrant visas. It was through the O&P visas, representing entertainers and people coming into the States on non-immigrant visas. That's how it first started. But I was I worked in a firm. They did all types of immigration, and I was attracted to litigation. And I said, I want to go to immigration court, but I wasn't licensed. I passed the bar, but I wasn't licensed yet, as you can see right there. So what I did was I worked in the appeals division, which meant that any case that was lost in the office, I would do the appeals. So I was able to read the transcripts of the attorney that lost the case. And I learned how to do it by learning what not to do. So I would read the transcripts, and the judges, great judges in New York, especially, they were very tough, but they know the law very well. They would give pretty much exactly why a case was denied. So there's this long transcript of an order of a judge explaining exactly why the case was denied. There's something called cancellation of removal proceedings, where if a person is iwi or illegal and they have no family to sponsor them, if they were here for 10 years or more, a person of good moral character, or if they have children born here, and the children may have, like some sort of ailment, they can win a case. So I learned how to do those cases by doing appeals. So as my cases were being sent to the Board of Immigration Appeals and being overturned so that we'd win, then I finally got licensed, and then I go to court. And I fell in love with this kind of work because you get to meet people from all over the world. And another cool part is immigration is federal law. So we'd have cases in California and Florida. So you're flying all over the place. And sometimes the places that are not too cool, but it's what it is. But that's how I got into it. But my non-immigrant visa clients started getting green cards, and then they became naturalized, and then they would buy a home. I'd refer those out to people, and I said I want to start doing that as well. So it just became this whole thing. I've been doing this for many years, so I know it well. Um, but it's that's how it started, and you can't. I can't express to you like the feeling in court where a judge tells a person or a family that your case has been granted welcome to America, and the tears that you have the family, you have your expert witnesses in there, you have the children, you have everyone there to act as witnesses, and it's something that because there are a lot of well-deserving people who should, whether they're undocumented or not, who deserve this. So when a judge grants a case like that, it's a great case. You know,
So it's really an emotional situation as well as the ability to change some lives.
correct.
You know,
And I've seen. I was once walking through Port Authority, and a police officer stopped me and said, "You, I know you." And it was apparently he was a young police. He was must have been like 20 something years old. He said about 7 years ago, when I was 14, my you represented my parents in immigration court, and I was the U.S. citizen child that they had. And this kid now had a stable family. Mom and dad are not here. They're documented. He finished high school. He went to college, became a police officer, and he was a police officer at that point. And I met like 15 of his co-officers who were with him that day. They were like, "Wow." So there's a stigma behind it, but what people do once it become legalized is absolutely amazing. I've seen them go on to school. I just seen them, especially like the DACA students. I've seen them transform from having a belly full of anxiety to having like, now I have this card. This says I can be here. This says I belong. It's a big deal. It's a really
that
big
is
deal.
so wonderful. That was one of my concerns with this world, because again, we've talked before even about the fact of them filing taxes and
Yeah,
making sure they're, and I never really got the whole story behind it, but I know that was one of the things that the gentleman who trained me how to do taxes, Mr.
yeah.
Henderson, how I wound up with his office and buying it from him had to do with the fact that he was trying to help people get their naturalization
Oh, that's
and
good.
filing tax returns. But back then, way back in the days, that was in the late 70s, early 80s.
Wow.
And sometimes with the tax returns, you got to write off for gas tax and you could write
Yep.
off credit card interest and all of this stuff. And, it was sometimes not really there. So
Yeah.
they didn't like the idea that he was helping all these people. So they challenged him. But it was to my benefit in a sense because I got to buy the business from him. But
And look at you today.
yes.
That was hard.
Awesome, definitely. I'm thinking about the fact that I'm going to have to schedule you to come back to talk
I
about
know you.
wills because I'm not finished with this. Continue telling us more about the immigration level because I think there's a lot of people, especially during this time of the year, people are concerned about their family members.
Exactly.
They're in situations. I know there's a situation right now with one of my clients. She's trying to figure it out because it's really not a relative, but the person is in one of the islands and being tortured, and
Very
I'm sure
difficult.
she's listening out there. But it's a very serious situation. Who I would have said, who would have thought it? We don't think about the fact in 2023 that there are people being tortured,
Yeah.
or
Oh, it happened.
working, or being
It's
enslaved.
it's alive and well for them. It's a very scary situation. As you can see on my next screen, one thing I didn't add on to here was adoption is also something that's huge, where you'll have Americans who could even adopt a family member who lost their parents, or even a child from anywhere. That's also through the immigration process as well. But if you have family who can sponsor someone, you could be a U.S. citizen applying for their spouse, a minor child, a parent. I have a lot of clients who left their countries when they were teenagers, and now they're much older now, and their parents are older, and they're back home still. So they want to bring grandma over at some point. And it really depends. You can bring your siblings over, but that could take over 15, 13 years. And you have green card holders who can also bring people over as well. I wanted to share with you this chart. I hope I can see it. This is pretty much a chart of, I believe, how people are gaining admission as green card holders. The most popular way is people who get it through family members, just like you said. So family members account for about 36.3% of green cards that are given out per year. Okay, this is the stats that is on USCIS.gov. Family preferences is about 20.5. That's a person that's applying for a family member as well, but they have to wait a little longer, like a sibling or a green card holder filing for someone. And then you have 14.2% of refugees and asylees. Refugees account for about 10.6%, and asylees 3.5. So not everyone is getting asylum.
That's not a lot.
It's not at all. And keep in mind that just about every state in the United States, or like most states, have immigration offices, and a lot of the judges, they may not want to really grant a lot of these cases, but a lot are fair. Employment is if your job wants to sponsor you, 13.2%. Diversity visas, unknown and other, I don't know. But people apply for the lottery, they can get in. But there's also it's also a racial issue as well. Well, you'll get some people from certain nations who get in much easier than people from other countries, or who gets a visa, who does not get a visa.
Is it a situation, I hate to interrupt you, just to find out, is with the employment situation, is
Sure.
it has to be full-time employment? Is there a certain amount of hours?
No, usually it depends on if the person. It really depends, but usually it depends on because there are a lot of ways to get an employment green card. If it's through a labor certification, it doesn't have to be full time. If it's through another way, it can be part time, as long as the person is being paid the prevailing wage under some circumstances. And others, the tricky thing is when an employer applies for someone for a green card, the green card is not employer specific. So the moment they get the green card, sometimes they're like, "Thank you very much. You can get a bump up in salary and go over here." So it's a risk sometimes for employers to apply for people, because it's not specific to that particular employer. What are you gonna do? But they get to
Look,
come.
by hook or crook, what you can do to get to your freedom and your, what is it, your blessed land, your holy land.
Exactly what you're gonna do. Now, this is what we mentioned earlier. You see the handcuffs? Yes, it happens. Those are handcuffs there with that immigration file. The immigration record can impact a person's ability to keep or obtain legal status. So, depending on when the crime or the conviction happened, a person is not safe once they get their green card. Anything can happen. And if a person is placed in detention center, we can find them through the ICE detainer locator. So I'll get calls from a family member saying, "Oh my God, someone got picked up. I don't know where they are." So with the person's date of birth or case number, I can find them pretty easily. And then we visit them at the detention center, and we'll ask them questions about what happened, and then you start from there. But immigration, let me go back to the handcuffs so people can understand this. With immigration, it's federal, which means that even if the person was living here in New York, they can put them in a detention center in Louisiana or anywhere across the country. So,
Oh my, how does the family find them?
ICE detainer locator. But the question is, how do you get them back home? Sometimes you want to do a motion to change venue and say, "Hey, the person lives here, the family's here, all their resources are here to fight this case, so we want them moved back to New York or to whichever area they're from." A lot of tricky things can happen. It's very scary. And you also have people who are being detained who are on medication. Are they receiving their proper medication? Are they receiving the doses that they required? Are the conditions safe? Sometimes you have a person who is an immigrant detainee placed in criminal prisons. Yeah, because a lot of these places are already outfitted and they have the resources to house people, so they're in chains. It's a lot of things. And during that whole time, the question is, hey, if you sign here, you can go back home tomorrow. So what is a person going to do if they're detained for 5 days, 5 months?
So they can be tricked into this.
I wouldn't say I don't do that, but But there are ways. But if a person is isolated and they've never been detained before in their lives, but a lot of people have not, and they're here in this new country, it's freezing cold. They're in a uniform, they're shackled. People start to think maybe home wasn't that bad. And unfortunately, that happens to a lot of people where they're assigned and they'll self-report. It's very because they're going to the same situation that they were in before. But this also applies to people who had green cards, who committed a crime or had an accident during their green card. It could even be, something fatal that they didn't mean, but they could end up they can go to criminal proceedings. If they're sentenced to criminal proceedings and they go to prison, and on their last day of prison, you have ICE waiting right outside the door for them to say, "Hey, welcome to ICE now. It's our turn." And then they end up in proceedings for immigration. It's a very scary thing. So let's go to the happy part, which is the last part here, is U.S. citizenship. I have my QR code in the corner. If anyone wants to take a shot of that, you could also reach out to me that way. But the benefits of citizenship are absolutely amazing. You can vote, you could travel. You don't have to be here 51% of the year. And even if you're a citizen and you go work abroad, you still have to pay your taxes, right? You know that for sure, right? You could tell us that. It allows you to prevent deportation if you got the green card the right way, and then once you're a citizen, you're fine. You could hold public office. You could live outside the U.S. You could hold jobs that require you to be a U.S. citizen and things of that sort. And you could pass it on to your children, citizenship, and other family members. So it's a cool thing to have. And also for health reasons too, I think that you may get better care and things of that sort, and be open to other things when you're older, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, things of that sort.
So when you say you're passing on the citizenship to the children, so if you have children that are born here, or is it that even if the children who are not born here?
If a person has children born abroad, so if they're, for example, if they're born outside the country, the U.S. citizen goes to another country and meets someone, they get married, she has a child there. That child does not have to go through the whole process like the new wife does. The child automatically becomes a citizen. So that U.S. citizen would say, "Hey, I'm a U.S. citizen. I had a child abroad," and then they'll end up getting a passport. So the only person that he's trying to sponsor is his wife. Okay.
Understood.
Really cool. And also, let me see how to become. You can become a U.S. citizen by being born here, like I said, by being born by someone with U.S. blood. By deriving it from family members. For example, if the whole family came over here at the same time, and you were a kid, and dad became a U.S. citizen when you were 15, then since you were under 18, you can get it as well. It's different ways. Requirements: you have to be at least 18 years old to apply for your own naturalization. You have to be a green card for 3 or 5 years, depending on how you receive the green card. You have to make sure that you have not abandoned your green card. I had a case once where a woman's mom got sick in Italy. She had cancer, and I got to go home and take care of my mom. She ended up being out for about a little under a year. Luckily, she knew that mom was sick, so before she left, we applied for what's called an I-131 application for her to stay out longer. So she didn't abandon her green card. Said, had she not done that, when she came back in, they would have seen that she would have been out over a year or close to a year. They said, "Hey, you don't really want this green card. We'll take it from you." And then she would have to fight that in court and show that, "Oh no, my mom was sick. I didn't work when I was there. I didn't abandon my home here." Things of that sort.
So they wouldn't really necessarily start all over. It's just that they have to defend that status.
Exactly. And hopefully the judge will say, "You know what, you're right. Mom was sick. You weren't there working. You didn't sell your home here. Your kids were still going to school here. You tried to go back and forth." I had another client, person that got stuck there because of COVID. That was a tough time where people just couldn't travel at all. But they made a lot of adjustments to that, because someone has to pretty much show that they've been living here the whole time. And that's immigration and naturalization for you. I look at the time.
That's okay. This was important. I think this needs to be definitely, and of course, everyone who's listening or those who watch this later, take heed. If you're in a position, do not be the secret agent that can't do things because you did not get your status correct.
Correct. And you know, it's funny. A lot of people they qualify for things, and they don't know. I tell people, go just get a consultation from an attorney. I'm a member of American Immigration Lawyers Association. I tell people to go to ALA.org, go to the site, find an attorney near you, do a consultation. It could be in your language or not. At least you know for sure, because there are people who have living here for years who have no status. They built a family, they own a home, and they could never travel outside the U.S. So long
Because
as they
they're
stay
frightened to do it because once they leave, are they they can't get back in.
10-year bar, can't get back in for 10 years. Yeah, it's
Oh
very
my.
scary. Oh yeah, 10
So
years.
they, if they did something like that, because again, family member gets sick, something happens, you rush off, you're not even thinking about it, and then you go, then it's time to come back in, you may not be able to get back in,
Exactly.
even though you own property, your children are here, it
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I tell people just to be careful because people are deported every day. If you're without status, you can get stopped for a broken tail light in your track. Any stop, any interaction with whether it's police or ICE can lead to you being detained and deported at any time if you don't have status. Don't mean to scare people, but this is the fact. I know people get annoyed. Oh my God, the person has 10 kids and they're a great person, but get that consultation done and see what a person can, if anything, apply for. Sometimes there is nothing and they just have to wait. And sometimes there are things that they can do.
I have a question, and I'm sure it's come up. There's a group out there that you marry but you really aren't. you know, what do people, I mean, I've heard these stories. I don't know where the people are, so no one come and get me. Okay. But they get married. I know some of the questions that are asked are very, intricate, to see, what was the underwear you wore that night, the next night. But do you see an influx of people doing those, or is that an easy way in? Is it? Okay.
I tell people credibility is everything. Credibility is everything. A lot of people want a shortcut. When I first started doing asylum cases, there were pop-up agencies that would just open up for about 3, 4, 5 months, open up at a location, do tons of applications, and disappear because they knew that the people just wanted to work hard, and then they'd find out that the person applied for asylum for them. So they were victims, which is really sad. But then you do have people who try to cheat the system, which I definitely don't agree with. Immigration lawyers don't do that. We understand that credibility is everything, and a person's going to do that. It's just not the way to go. There's so many applications that a person can file and petitions that if they just wait and they just take their time. But sometimes people are tricked into it. But I'm hoping that that doesn't still happen. I know that it happened many, many years ago, but I'm hoping that people aren't still doing that at the record levels that they were doing before. Credibility is everything when a person is applying.
That's awesome because I know we got a little bit more time. I just want to cover one more thing that has come into my realm of people that I guess it works. I don't know. People who are Muslim, their marriages, I'm just now finding as a tax accountant that the marriages are not necessarily a certificate. It's that they went to the imam and they got married. So it's a religious, and I saw something up there with religion, but it was about traveling, I think. But the bottom line is that recognized as a marriage if it's a religious situation, not a government?
I think so long. I think there's a general rule. So long as the location where the person was married, that's the local custom, then that's should be deemed a marriage. So there are people who get married in a lot of different ways. There are arranged marriages. There are marriages by faith. There are marriages by different ways, and sometimes it's a ceremony. It could be different things. So the United States, I think it's called comity, COMITY. I'll look it up, but they do recognize the majority of these marriages as long as they know that it's the custom in that area. So the person can show that there was some sort of something, whatever happened in that culture happened, and the U.S. embassies know this because they're located in these countries. so they understand exactly how the cultures work in these places. So if the person did it the right way, then they should be able to be petitioned by a spouse or brought back in. Yeah.
Well, if someone, now we go back to my young folks, if someone wanted to really get into like how you have done, how does one get to work in this field other than first going to law school? Because, you know, some of the young people need to get that exposure. What would you, if you look at Evans a few years ago, wanting to learn, where would you start?
Actually, as you know, if you look at my website, the link is right there. I have a section called internships, and I offer something that I didn't have when I was applying to law school. I do internships for pre-law students and current law school students. I think it's important to get experience, to be in the room with other attorneys, to understand what the law is about. Because often enough, people go to law school not fully understanding what it means to be an attorney or what the laws are, or what law, just what it is. They saw a TV show. They saw Felicia Rashad as Claire Huxtable in The Cosby Show, or, you know, another attorney on TV say, I love that. That's a great look. But I just tell people to go to functions, get an internship at a law firm, volunteer at anything legal that you can get your hands. There are tons of places that need volunteers, and then you can get a really hands-on approach of what law is in any field. And it also helps it boosts your LSAT scores. Hopefully, it'll help that, you know, based on the new affirmative action thing that was struck down by the Supreme Court. People have to do everything that they can to get into school and to show that they are an individual that deserves to be there. So you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward, do internships. I think it's important. I didn't know to do that. A few years ago. But
that is awesome. Evans, I got to have you back. So when I talk to you again, we got to have a whole thing, because now we got another level to go. But this was truly awesome. I hope as my audience, they understand that this is about information. And if you've gotten it and maybe you don't need that because you don't have a situation, share it and share Mr. Legros's information, you know, to help reach out, because it's so necessary. And Evans, I want to thank you so much again. Thank you. And yes, so you know, we got to schedule because we still got to talk about.
Well, I have the topic is an overview of last wills and testaments, living wills, proxies, and powers of attorney. That's going to be the next one.
So we need to do that because, and I would like to do it before the year is out, because as you all know, people make resolutions, but if you give them the information, they can then take that to action, because resolutions are cute, but action is necessary.
Do it. I had my current intern, David Loda, help me. He did a lot of the slide deck, so he was hoping that we could do both, and he and I knew that we couldn't do both today because we'd have so much. Immigration is such a rich area, so his last day here is the end of December, so we want to get it done.
We'll get it done as soon as I get a chance. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling you. And okay? So thank you all for watching Access Wealth Nation with Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse, and getting that checkup from the neck up, making a difference in your life and making a difference in your financial world. And again, when you need someone and advice as far as, look, he goes entertainment law, he does real estate, he does, look, you got to call Evans.
You're a lawyer for those life-defining moments.
Say that again, Evans.
You're a lawyer for those life-defining moments.
There we go. That's what it's really about. So y'all have a good night. Thank you so much. I know y'all will look at this and needed questions answered. We're here. And again, thank you for watching Access Wealth Nation with Dr. Jana B. Woodhouse on the Soul City Network, and of course, WHCR 90.3 FM.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be lethal to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is magic.